Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're in the Trailblazer RV service department and we're going to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2018 KZ Durango 2500 343 MBQ. We'll start right here in the front corner of the trailer where you've got your RV battery system. So this is an upgraded RV31 battery. You've got two leads going to the battery, a red positive and a black negative, and a battery strap holding it in place. It is a flooded wet cell battery, so it requires a little bit of maintenance. What we recommend, you'll have to remove this sticker to expose 6 cells here. And once or twice a year, you'll want to open up those cells and check the level of liquid in the battery. If it looks a little bit low, or especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the fluid, you'll want to top that up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing this battery for winter storage. So take it out of the RV, store it inside somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and if possible, put a trickle charge on it once or twice over the course of the off season. There's a battery disconnect switch here as well. So when your RV is in storage for a few days or weeks at a time, you can turn that to the off position and pull the key. That kills all of the 12-volt power to the RV. For now, we'll leave it engaged. The other thing inside this compartment is your controls for your automatic electric leveling system. Now, a few things that you can do with these controls: you can raise and lower the front landing legs to connect and disconnect from the truck, and you can run your auto leveling system from here. If you haven't recently used the auto leveling system, it will shut off. To wake it up, you have to press both the raise and lower button at the same time. The light was already on when we got to it, so we didn't have to do that. But if this green light isn't on, just press the two buttons together to wake up the system. To auto level the RV, once you've parked and disconnected from the truck, simply hit the auto level button. The green indicator light will start flashing to show that it's going through its cycle. The first thing that it's going to do is level the RV front to back. So it's just bringing down those front legs a little bit because we were a little high from when we disconnected from our truck. Next thing it's going to do is ground the rear legs. They'll both move at the same time, but one will make contact with the ground before the other. So as they make contact with the ground, they'll equalize, and then the leveling system will start to analyze what's level and move each jack individually to level. See those two jacks, the rear jacks are grounded, one at a time. Now it is analyzing for level, and it'll move each individual jack once or twice. This whole process takes about 3 or 4 minutes from the time you press the auto level button to the time the RV is actually level. So it's still fine-tuning some leveling. Once it's satisfied with the level, the green light will stop flashing and just change to solid green. If for some reason the leveling was unsuccessful, it will change to red instead of green. And there we are. So now the leveling process is complete and the RV is level. When you go to retract the jacks, the easiest way to do that is the hitch height feature. The RV remembers the height that you disconnected from your truck. So if you press the hitch height feature, it'll lift up the rear legs and then return to the height that you were at when you disconnected the truck. If the system has ever failed or gone into a fault, you'll get a flashing red light. The way to clear the fault is at the touchpad just inside the door. So just follow me over to the touchpad. And right here is where you'll find your fault and the ability to clear the fault. So just press OK to acknowledge, and that's cleared the fault, and you can resume using the jacks. Once you're set up and leveled, this trailer also has the JT strong arm stabilizers. So once the leveling system is finished running its cycle, just tighten down your JT strong arms, and that will help take some of the side-to-side motion out of the RV. Make sure before you reconnect to the truck that you've loosened these off. If you try to reconnect to the truck with the strong arms tightened up, you can bind these and either bend them or have a really hard time getting your front landing leg retracted. Around the other side of the fifth wheel is where you'll find your propane system. So this one has dual 30-pound propane tanks. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic changeover propane regulator. You can see on this regulator, there's a red sight glass here showing that there is no propane flowing from the supply bottle. The indicator is pointing at this to make this the supply bottle and this the reserve bottle. If we open that supply bottle, the sight glass will change from red to clear, showing that there's propane flowing in the lines. What we recommend is opening both bottles, and if you have both bottles open, the regulator will deplete the supply bottle first and then start to pull from the reserve bottle. When that happens, the sight glass will change back to red, and at that point you can switch the regulator over to the second bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Anytime you open a propane valve, always open it slowly and all the way to ensure you don't trip the excess flow valve on the propane bottle. Here in the front storage compartment, it's lighted, so you've got a little light there for the storage compartment. And you also have your water system here. So everything that you want to do with your water system can be controlled by the positioning of these 5 valves. So if you want to set up for dry camping like it is right now, this will use water from the RV's water reservoir. You can connect to city water by turning the valves to the city water setting. You can also winterize your plumbing system, siphon antifreeze or siphon water into the freshwater tank using the pump, or use the city water connection to power fill the tank. If you turn the valves to this position and hook your city water hose up, or hook your water hose up to the city water connection, it will fill your fresh tank via the pressurized city water. For now, we'll leave the valves in the dry camping position so that we're ready to pump water from the freshwater holding tank. When you go to winterize this system, your sprayer line here for your outside shower can be used as your antifreeze siphon line. So hook the sprayer line up to the city water connection, turn the valves to the winterize position, and put the other end of this hose into your jug of antifreeze, and you can pump antifreeze directly from the jug. With this style of system, we recommend running antifreeze through the entire system but then when you're finished, blowing that antifreeze out with air. And you can do that with a RV blowout plug and an air compressor that hooks up to the city water connection. Once you're blowing air through the lines, you'll just want to run through all of these different valve settings. You've also got here your sewer tank flush system. When you're hooked up and dumping your holding tanks, you can hook a hose up to here to flush out the inside of the black holding tank. And you've got an auxiliary water pump switch here. This activates the water pump remotely from out here for use when you're doing your winterizing. Right next to that is where your power cord attaches. It's a 50 amp power cord, and we supply the adapters. So some campgrounds that you stay at will have 50 amp power. For those that don't, we supply the 30 amp adapter. And if you don't have 30 amps, we also supply the 15 amp park adapter. Right next to that is your hot water tank. It's a 12-gallon gas electric hot water tank. You're going to run the tank on electricity if you're staying at a site with power hookups. There's a little black rocker switch in the bottom corner here that'll have to be turned to the on position. We'll leave that off right now so that you don't accidentally start up the heating element if you're not ready to. There's also two black reset buttons on the outside of the tank. If you ever overheat the tank, you can trip these and you'll have to come out and reset them before the tank can start up again. That would most likely only happen if you started up the tank with no water in it. This is also where you'll pull the drain plug out to drain the water from the tank. On the end of that plug is a rod about that long. It's your anode rod. So the anode rod will corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. It does need to be replaced periodically, but it can get quite pitted and corroded looking before it needs to be replaced. Depending on the quality of water, every 3 to 5 years typically. Before you pull that plug out, make sure to bleed the pressure off of the system using the pressure relief valve, just so that you don't get sprayed when you pull that plug out of the water tank. Your sewer dumping will be done from right here. We supply a new 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose. It's stored in the rear bumper right now. Sewer hose attaches onto here. Other end goes into the ground. And then you have two valves, your black valve and your gray valve. The black valve is the sewer. You should always dump this one first. Once you can hear that the contents of the black holding tank have stopped draining, you can close this valve and open the gray valve to dump your sink and shower water. This will kind of flush the black holding tank contents through the hose so that they're not in there when you have to disconnect the hose. When you're dumping that black holding tank, remember that you've got your sewer tank flush system in the front compartment as well. You can hook a hose up to that to flush that through. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 80 psi. It's stamped on the side of the trailer, on the side of the tire, 80 psi cold, and we do recommend running them right at 80 psi. Also, your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds, and we recommend periodic retorquing of your lug nuts on an RV as well. Also recommend doing wheel bearing repack once a year. This RV, if you pop this center cap off here, has easy lube axles. So there's a grease zerk right in the center of the hub here to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. Easy lube axles don't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but they do prolong it. As long as you're giving those axles a little bit of grease every year or a couple of times a year, maybe instead of repacking your wheel bearings every year, you do it every 2 or 3 years. On the back of the fifth wheel is where your spare tire is mounted. It's important to note that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench. No trailer does. So it's a good idea just to make sure that you've got a wheel wrench that fits your lug nuts along with you, just in case you need to change a tire on the fly sometime. And back around the front of the trailer is where we find your furnace exhaust. This gets very hot, so just make sure that if you've got any kids around the trailer, they're aware to stay away from that. Access for your outside fridge. The fridge is 110 volt electricity only, so it will only work when you're plugged into power or a generator. And inside the front storage compartment here, we've got your outside grill. So there's a stand for the outside grill. It just drops right into the holder there. And the grill itself attaches to the bracket. The bracket on the grill can also be set right on the ground or a picnic table to use the grill on the ground or on the table. When you go to hook up that barbecue, it'll need to be plugged into the Quick Connect propane line. So the Quick Connect you'll find right underneath here. Pull the cap out, attach the Quick Connect propane line and the other Quick Connect to the barbecue. There's two valves that'll need to be opened, a valve on the RV and a valve on the line itself before any propane will flow to that barbecue. I think that pretty much covers it for the outside. Follow me inside the trailer and we'll go through a few more things. So right at the entry door here are a couple of switches. These are your main light switches for your main lighting and for your outside yard lighting. And right above that is where you find your LCI touch panel. And if you just come on in here, this is where you can control several mechanical systems in the RV. Awning can be controlled from here. Simple retract and extend controls for the awning. Lighting, you can control the front cap lighting only from the touchpad. So just the decorative lighting, hitch lighting on the front cap. Your slide outs can all be controlled from here, and you'll scroll to find the various slide outs. We've opened up most of the slides already, but we left the bunk slide closed. Just to show how it works. So if we just press and hold the out button, the gears turning means the slide is extending, and you'll be able to see that right here. So as that slide goes out, when it reaches its full extension, you'll hear a ratcheting sound, and that means that it's all the way extended. Just like so. When you hear that ratcheting sound, just take your finger off of the out button. This is also where we accessed that leveling menu. So you can do a little bit more with your leveling system from inside here than you can do from outside. We ran the auto level system, but from here you can also control the extension and retraction of both the front and rear legs. So if you wanted to retract the rear legs to get ready to hook back up to the truck, just put it in retract setting and press rear. If you wanted to retract the front settings, retract setting in front, or you can also extend the front legs from there. You can toggle through info mode, which we're in right now, auto retract to retract both the front and rear legs, or manual mode. And in manual mode, it gives you this little warning the first time. You can retract or extend any jacks individually. And actually whenever you move a zone, it'll move two jacks. So if you retract the right jacks, it'll retract both right jacks. If you extend the front jacks, it'll extend both front jacks. But that's how you run it in manual mode. also the My RV tab. And if you go into the My RV tab, this is where you'll find a lot of your owner's manuals, frequently asked questions, troubleshooting videos, and how-tos right here on the screen. Most of the time, you'll leave that in the control panel setting. Right below that is where you'll find your thermostat. This controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. So for the cooling system, you can turn the system over to fan or to cool. And you've got high and low fan speeds for your air conditioning fan. If you set the thermostat to a temperature that you're comfortable with and leave it in the automatic setting, that fan or the air conditioning will cycle on and off per the thermostat. The heating system, the fan has only one speed. So if we turn it to heating and turn it up to temperature, that furnace fan starts up immediately, but it's going to be a few seconds before the burner actually kicks in and we have warm air blowing through our vents. We should hear that light up though. Just like that. If you heard that click, that was the furnace burner lighting up. So when the furnace comes to temperature, or when we shut down the system, the exact same thing happens, only in reverse. The burner goes out immediately, but the fan's still going to run for another 30 seconds to a minute just to go through its cycle. Here in the entry door closet is where you'll find your monitor panel. So you can see the level of your battery is completely charged right now. Fresh tank completely empty, black tank completely empty, and gray tank completely empty. Also got some switches here for lighting. Your awning light that runs the length of the awning. Your door side floodlight up at the front of the RV. Water pump can be engaged and disengaged from here. And then you've got two settings for your water heater. You've got to run the water heater on electricity, turn the switch on. Remember, if you're going to run the water heater on electricity, that you need to also have that black rocker switch on the outside of the tank in the on position. And this is where you'll light the hot water heater on propane gas. And just like the furnace, we turn that switch on, but the tank doesn't light immediately. If we look at this DSI fault light here, in a second we'll hear that burner light up and the fault light will go off, just like so. If that fault light didn't go off, or if it went off only briefly and came back on, that's when you might need to go outside and press those two little black reset buttons on the outside of the hot water tank. The main tank, extra tank, is in regards to Durangos that have two gray holding tanks, which I don't believe this one does. I think this one has only a single gray holding tank. So just always leave that in the main tank setting. That's in regards to your monitor panel, which one's reading on the monitor panel. Up here in the bathroom, only a couple of things to talk about in here. There's a notable power outlet in here that's your GFCI outlet. Just like the outlets in the bathroom in your home, it has a test and reset button on it. The only difference on a GFCI and an RV is this is wired in series with all the rest of your power outlets as well. So if you trip the GFCI, you'll lose power to all of your power outlets. If you're ever plugged into power and you've got no power from your outlets, come into the bathroom, press the reset button, everything should go back to normal. Whenever you're using your RV's sewer system, you'll want to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. It comes in powder, tablet, or liquid form. We sell all three. When you go to add chemical to the system, open up a package of chemical, pour it into the toilet, and push halfway down on the foot pedal to fill the bowl with water. Once the bowl is full of water and chemical, and you can push the rest of the way down to dump everything down into the tank. You'll want to add new chemical to your holding tank immediately following every time you dump your black holding tank. So when you finish dumping the black holding tank, come in here, add some new chemical, and you should be good until the next time you have to dump the holding tanks. In the bedroom, not a whole bunch to talk about. You've got your TV antenna control here. Unlike the old style TV antennas, this one doesn't actually crank up on the roof, but it can be turned to dial in the best TV signal. Some storage underneath the bed here. Good spot for extra bedding and that sort of thing. And with your sliding glass doors, important to make sure that those are always latched for travel. If they don't latch, they swing back and forth or slide back and forth, and it doesn't take much to break a glass mirror, and then you've got 7 years of bad luck. What else haven't we covered? Here in the kitchen, you've got a 3-burner gas stovetop. And all 3 of the burners work with the piezo igniter. Always recommend that the first thing you do when you put a new propane bottle on the front of the trailer, anytime you've had that propane system disconnected, come in here, open up your burners, and get all 3 of those burners lit. Once all 3 of the burners have lit, you know you've bled the air off of the propane system. That way you know that your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank are going to start up with no problems. The only pilot light that you have in the RV is for the oven. So to light the oven pilot, turn the knob over to pilot on, push in and hold on that knob, and then you're going to light the pilot right here. And this one actually has a sparker. The electronic sparker works with this pilot light. That's the first one of those that I've seen. Once you've got a flame there for your pilot light, continue to hold the knob down for 10 or 15 seconds, just for that flame sensor to warm up. Once you release the knob and the flame stays lit, you can turn the oven up to temperature, and the rest of the burner will light up. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it down to pilot on and leave the pilot burning, or you can just turn the oven right off and relight the pilot next time you want to use the oven. Your Norcold fridge is an automatic gas electric fridge. So to turn it on, just press the on button, and what we recommend is just always leaving it in the automatic setting. Right now it's in automatic, and it senses that it has AC power, so it's going to run on electricity. You can override the automatic to only run on AC power or only run on LP propane gas. There's only a few situations where you might want to do that, but you may find that the fridge cools a little faster on gas than it does on electricity. Now, having said that, with an RV fridge, especially one this large, it does take it several hours to cool down, so we recommend getting the fridge cooling the day before you load it up with food. This one has a temperature adjustment, 1 being the warmest, 9 being the coldest. I usually leave it on 5 or 6, but you may find that you need to adjust that depending on the ambient conditions. To turn off the fridge, press and hold the on-off button for 2 seconds. The microwave, air conditioner, fireplace, TV, and power outlets are the things that you'll need to be plugged into power to use. Everything else will run just fine off the RV's 12-volt electrical system. There should be a power converter in here somewhere that we haven't found yet. Power converter right here in the bunk room. So this is the power center for the entire RV. So if you open this up, you'll find breakers for all of your 110 volt circuits, and fuses for all of your 12 volt circuits. You've got primarily 15 amp fuses, but you've also got 3 20 amp fuses in here. And it's not uncommon on an RV to blow a fuse once in a while, so we do recommend having some spare fuses along with you in case you have to change one out at the campground. Other thing with this power converter is it's not uncommon for it to make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound, and it's just the cooling system in the power converter when it's operating under load, if your battery is very low or if you've got a lot of lights on or something like that. There's a couple of safety features to talk about here. Up in the ceiling is where you'll find your smoke detector. It's important to note that the smoke detector runs on its own 9 volt battery, so you should check this periodically just to make sure that that battery hasn't gone dead, just by pressing the test button on the smoke detector. You'll need to replace that battery every couple of years probably. You've got another detector down here near the floor. This is your combination propane and carbon monoxide detector. So this will do 3 things. It will alert you obviously to the potential of a propane leak. If that was the case, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm goes off. Of a potential carbon monoxide situation, in which case you would not smell anything before the alarm went off. And the third thing that it could do is alert you to a low voltage situation with your RV battery. This is wired into the RV's 12 volt electrical system, so if your RV battery gets very low, this will chirp just like a smoke detector in your home would when its battery is getting very low. I think for the most part that covers everything. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2018 Durango 2500 343 MBQ. You can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer if you have any questions, and you can always visit our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.